The moment Noah Grayson stepped into that glass conference room, he knew his ordinary life was over. What he saw wasn't supposed to exist. Vivian Cross, the untouchable billionaire who owned everything including his paycheck, standing alone in the dark, crying like the world had finally broken her. He should have walked away. He should have pretended he saw nothing. Instead, he opened the door. If you want to know how a single father with nothing to lose ended up destroying a $1 billion empire just by telling the truth, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights in the 42nd floor of Vanguard Holdings hummed like dying insects at 11:47 p.m. Noah Grayson rubbed his eyes and stared at the spreadsheet that had been mocking him for the past 3 hours. Revenue projections for Q4. Debt restructuring scenarios. Numbers that meant everything to people who already had everything and absolutely nothing to him. His phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen, his neighbor who watched Emma on late nights like this. She's asleep. Don't rush. I'm watching my shows anyway. Noah exhaled slowly. Emma was 6 years old and had his same dark hair, same stubborn chin. She'd asked him that morning why her mom never came to pick her up like other kids' moms did. Noah had fumbled through an answer about grown-ups making hard choices, about some people not being ready to be parents, about how much he loved her, and that was enough. It wasn't enough. He knew it. Emma knew it. But it was all he had. He saved the file and stood up, his lower back protesting. 32 years old and he already moved like someone much older. That's what happened when you worked 60-hour weeks while raising a kid alone. His apartment was a cramped 2-bedroom in a neighborhood where car alarms went off like clockwork every night at 2 a.m. His salary was decent, but not decent enough. His life was a treadmill that never stopped moving. The office was empty now. Most people cleared out by 6. Even the ambitious ones were gone by 9. But Noah had learned years ago that staying late was the only way to keep up. He wasn't brilliant like some of the Ivy League hotshots who got hired here. He didn't have connections. He just worked harder than everyone else and hoped nobody noticed him enough to fire him. He grabbed his jacket and headed toward the elevator bank. That's when he saw the light. It came from the executive conference room at the end of the hall, the one with floor-to-ceiling glass walls that overlooked the city. During the day, that room was a fortress. Vice presidents and directors went in looking confident and came out looking like they'd survived a war. Noah had never been inside. People at his level didn't get invited to rooms like that. The light was soft, not the usual harsh overhead glare, almost like someone had only turned on a single lamp. Noah slowed down. He should keep walking. Whatever was happening in there had nothing to do with him. But then he saw her. Vivian Cross stood in the center of the room, her back to the glass wall, head tilted down. She wasn't moving, just standing there in the dim light wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Noah's monthly rent. Her arms hung at her sides like someone had cut her strings. Noah had seen Vivian exactly 3 times in person during his 4 years at Vanguard Holdings. Once during a company-wide presentation where she'd stood on stage and talked about growth targets with the kind of cold precision that made everyone sit up straighter. Once in the elevator when she'd stepped in and every person inside had gone silent, like someone hit pause on their lives. And once in the parking garage when he'd held the door for her and she'd walked past without even glancing at him. She was 30 years old, which everyone talked about because she was supposedly the youngest self-made billionaire in the industry. She'd inherited the company from her father 5 years ago and had tripled its value since then. People called her ruthless, visionary, untouchable. The business magazines loved her. The employees feared her. Noah had never thought of her as human. But right now, standing alone in that glass room, she looked small, tired. Her shoulders moved once, a slight shudder, and that's when Noah realized what he was seeing. She was crying, not loud, not dramatic, just silent tears sliding down her face while she stood perfectly still, like she'd forgotten how to do anything else. Noah's hand was on the door handle before his brain caught up. This was insane. This was career suicide. You didn't walk into a private moment with the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. You didn't intrude on Vivian Cross. You didn't... The door opened. She didn't look up. Ms. Cross? His voice came out quieter than he intended. For a long moment, she didn't react, didn't move, didn't acknowledge him at all. Then slowly she raised her head. Her face was a wreck. Makeup smudged under her eyes, streaks running down her cheeks, expression so raw it felt like looking at an open wound. But what hit Noah hardest was her eyes. They weren't cold anymore. They were exhausted and furious and desperate all at once. "Who are you?" she said. Her voice was hoarse. "Noah Grayson. I work in financial analysis. He stopped. What was he supposed to say? "I saw you crying and thought I'd make it weird. I saw the light on. I thought maybe someone was still working and I should check." "Get out!" It wasn't loud. It wasn't a scream, just flat, dead. Noah should have listened. He should have apologized and backed out of the room and pretended this never happened. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way she said it without any real heat behind it, like she didn't even have the energy to be angry. Maybe it was the fact that he'd spent 4 years watching executives parade around like they owned the world, and here was the person who actually did own it, falling apart alone in the dark. "Are you okay?" Noah asked. Vivian laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. "Am I okay?" she repeated slowly, like she was testing out a foreign language. "That's your question." "I know it's not my business." "You're right, it's not. But you're standing here by yourself at midnight, and you look like what?" She turned to face him fully now. "Like I'm human? Is that surprising to you?" Noah met her gaze. "Yeah, actually, it is." He didn't know why he said it. Maybe because he was too tired to lie. Maybe because something about her raw honesty made him want to match it. Maybe because he'd spent so long being invisible that he'd forgotten how to be careful. Vivian stared at him. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed again. This time it sounded almost real. "At least you're honest," she said. She walked over to the long conference table and leaned against it, arms crossed. Her mascara was still smudged, but she didn't seem to care anymore. "What department did you say you were in?" "Financial analysis. I do revenue forecasting mostly. Debt modeling, risk assessment." "How long have you worked here?" 4 years. "And I've never seen you." "That's kind of the point," Noah said. "I'm not supposed to be seen." Vivian studied him with an intensity that made him want to look away. "You have a wedding ring tan line," she said suddenly. Noah glanced down at his left hand. The pale band of skin was still visible even though it had been 3 years. "Observant," he said. "Divorced?" "Never married, just engaged once. Long time ago." "What happened?" "She decided being a mother wasn't part of her plan. I decided it was part of mine." He didn't know why he was telling her this. He never talked about Emma's mom, not to coworkers, not to acquaintances, barely even to himself. Turns out those are hard positions to compromise on. "You have a kid." It wasn't a question. Noah nodded. "A daughter, Emma. She's 6. "And you're here at midnight." "So are you." Vivian's expression shifted, something almost like amusement. "Fair point." She pushed off from the table and walked to the window. The city sprawled out below them, a million lights burning in the darkness. "Do you know what today was, Noah, from financial analysis?" "Friday?" "The day I signed papers to finalize the sale of my father's private art collection," she said. Her voice had gone flat again. 43 paintings, sculptures, pieces he spent 30 years acquiring. I sold all of it to cover a gap in our acquisition fund because 3 of our board members got nervous about liquidity ratios. She pressed her palm against the glass. "He built this company from nothing, spent his whole life making it matter. And I just sold his legacy to make sure our stock price doesn't drop 0.5%. Noah didn't say anything. What could he say? "Everyone thinks I'm invincible," Vivian continued. "That's what they call me in the press. The Ice Queen, the billion-dollar prodigy. They write these profiles about how I'm changing the industry, how I'm unstoppable." She turned back to him. "Do you know what nobody writes about? How every single decision I make is second-guessed by men twice my age who inherited their positions and their money. How I can't make a single mistake or they'll use it as proof that I never deserved this in the first place." "Why are you telling me this?" Noah asked. "Because you asked if I was okay," Vivian said simply. "And nobody asks me that. Ever." The silence stretched between them. Outside, a helicopter passed by, its lights blinking red against the dark sky. "You should go home," Vivian said finally. To your daughter. What about you? I'll be fine. That's not what I asked. Vivian looked at him for a long moment. I don't have anywhere else to be, she said quietly. Noah made a decision that his rational brain immediately screamed at him for. There's a diner 2 blocks from here, he said. Nothing fancy, just coffee and pie that's probably been sitting in the case since Tuesday. It's open all night. Are you asking me to get coffee with you? I'm suggesting that sitting in this building alone isn't doing you any favors. I'm your boss. Technically, you're everyone's boss. This is completely inappropriate. Probably, Noah agreed. But it's also midnight, and we're both still here instead of with people we care about. So maybe appropriate isn't the priority right now. Vivian studied him again with those sharp, exhausted eyes. Noah waited for her to say no, to tell him to leave, to remember who she was and who he wasn't. Instead, she grabbed her coat from the back of a chair. 1 cup, she said. And if you tell anyone about this, I'll have you fired before you make it to the parking garage. Noah almost smiled. Deal. The diner was called Mel's, and it was exactly as depressing as Noah had promised. Cracked vinyl booths, fluorescent lights that buzzed too loud, a waitress who looked like she'd given up on life sometime in the 90s. At this hour, the only other customers were a drunk guy arguing with himself in the corner and 2 teenagers who were either in love or planning a heist. Vivian slid into the booth across from Noah and looked around like she'd just landed on another planet. When's the last time you were in a place like this? Noah asked. Never, Vivian said. I don't think I've ever been in a place like this. The waitress came over and poured coffee without asking. It smelled burnt. Vivian picked up her cup and took a sip, then made a face. That's the worst coffee I've ever had, she said. Welcome to the real world. I hate it. Most people do. Vivian set down the cup and looked at him, really looked at him. Why did you invite me here? Because you looked like you needed to not be alone, Noah said honestly. You don't know anything about me. I know you were crying in an empty office building at midnight. That's usually a sign someone's having a bad day. Bad year, Vivian corrected. Bad 5 years, if we're being honest. She wrapped her hands around the coffee cup like she needed something to hold on to. Do you know what it's like to inherit everything you ever wanted and realize it's a trap? No, Noah said. But I know what it's like to build a life around something you thought mattered and then watch it fall apart anyway. Vivian's eyes narrowed. Your ex. Among other things. Tell me. Noah hesitated. He didn't talk about this. Not with coworkers, not with neighbors, not with anyone. But sitting across from Vivian Cross in a terrible diner at midnight, something about the surreal absurdity of it all made him want to be honest. I met Rachel when I was 24, he said. She was smart, ambitious, had this whole plan for her life. Consulting job, MBA, partner track by 35. We dated for 2 years. I proposed. She said yes. Then she got pregnant. Emma. Noah nodded. Rachel panicked. Fully panicked. She kept saying this wasn't part of the plan, that she wasn't ready, that having a kid would destroy everything she'd worked for. I thought she'd come around. I thought once Emma was born, she'd change her mind. He stared down at his coffee. She left 3 weeks after delivery. Signed away parental rights. Haven't heard from her since. That's terrible, Vivian said quietly. It was, Noah agreed. But the worst part wasn't her leaving. It was realizing that I'd built this entire future in my head with someone who was never actually there. I was in love with a version of her that didn't exist. He looked up. So yeah, I don't know what it's like to inherit a billion-dollar company, but I know what it's like to get everything you thought you wanted and realize it's not real. Vivian was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. My father had very specific ideas about what this company should be, she said. Traditional, conservative, built on relationships and reputation. When I took over, I tried to honor that. I made decisions I thought he would have made. I hired people he would have hired. I presented myself the way he taught me to. She traced the rim of her cup with one finger. And it worked. The company grew. We became more profitable than ever, but I also became someone I barely recognize. Who did you used to be? Noah asked. I have no idea, Vivian said. That's the problem. The drunk guy in the corner started singing off key. The teenagers laughed at something on their phone. The waitress refilled their coffee without making eye contact. It was the most ordinary moment imaginable, and yet Noah felt like something fundamental had shifted. "Can I ask you something?" Vivian said. "Sure." "Why aren't you scared of me?" Noah considered the question. "I am scared of you," he said finally. "You could end my career with a single email. You could have me escorted out of the building by security. You have more power in your bank account than I'll see in my entire life." He met her eyes. "But you also just cried alone in an empty office, drank terrible diner coffee, and told a stranger your entire life feels like a trap. That doesn't make you less powerful. It just makes you real." Vivian stared at him. "You're very strange, Noah Grayson." "I get that a lot. I don't mean it as an insult. I didn't take it as one." She almost smiled. "Almost. What happens now?" "Now you finish your terrible coffee," Noah said. "Then you go home and get some sleep. And on Monday, you go back to being the terrifying CEO, and I go back to being the invisible analyst, and we both pretend this never happened." "And if I don't want to pretend it never happened?" The question hung in the air between them. Noah's rational brain was screaming at him to shut this down, to set boundaries, to remember that this woman could destroy his life without even trying. But the look in her eyes stopped him. It was vulnerable and uncertain, and so completely at odds with everything he thought he knew about Vivian Cross. "Then I guess we figure it out," he said. Was set. Noah didn't get home until almost 2 in the morning. Mrs. Chen had fallen asleep on his couch with the TV still on. He woke her gently and thanked her, then stood in Emma's doorway watching his daughter sleep. She had kicked off her blankets and was sprawled sideways across the bed, one arm hanging off the edge, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin. He thought about Vivian's question. What happens now? He had no idea. But as he pulled Emma's blanket back over her and kissed her forehead, he knew with absolute certainty that his carefully controlled, predictable life had just become very, very complicated. Monday morning arrived with the kind of cold rain that turned the city gray and miserable. Noah dropped Emma off at school, fielded her questions about why he seemed tired, and promised they'd make pancakes for dinner. Then he fought his way through traffic to Vanguard Holdings, took the elevator to the 42nd floor, and sat down at his desk. His email inbox had exploded over the weekend. Urgent requests from 3 different directors. Budget revisions due by Wednesday. A meeting invite for Thursday afternoon with no agenda. He was 2 hours into reconciling expense reports when his desk phone rang. "Noah Grayson," he answered automatically. "Mr. Grayson, this is Caroline from Miss Cross's office. Miss Cross would like to see you in her office at 2 p.m. today. Please confirm your availability." Noah's brain short-circuited. "I'm sorry, what?" "Miss Cross would like to see you at 2 p.m. Are you available?" This was it. She'd come to her senses. Realized how completely inappropriate Friday night had been. She was going to fire him personally. "Yes," Noah heard himself say. "I'm available." "Excellent. 65th floor, executive suite. Security will be expecting you." The line went dead. Noah stared at his phone, and around him the normal sounds of the office continued. Keyboards clicking, phones ringing, someone laughing at a joke he couldn't hear. His hands were shaking. At 1:55 p.m., he stepped off the elevator onto the 65th floor. He'd never been up here before. The executive suite was all marble floors and abstract art and floor-to-ceiling windows. A receptionist with perfect hair and a sharper expression than most knives directed him to wait. At exactly 2 p.m., a tall woman in her 40s appeared. "Mr. Grayson, I'm Caroline, Miss Cross's executive assistant. This way, please." She led him down a hallway past closed doors and conference rooms, then stopped in front of a double door made of dark wood. "Miss Cross is finishing a call," Caroline said. "She'll be with you in a moment." Then she left him standing there. Noah waited. His heart was doing something erratic in his chest. Through the door, he could hear Vivian's voice, sharp and controlled. "I don't care what the projections say, Marcus. If we move forward with the merger before the audit is complete, we're exposed. Tell the board I'll have a revised timeline by Friday. No, that's not negotiable, because I'm the CEO and I'm telling you it's not negotiable." A pause. Then, Send me the updated files. We're done here. Silence. Then the door opened. Vivian stood there in a navy suit that probably cost more than Noah's car. Her hair was pulled back, her makeup was flawless, and every trace of the vulnerable woman from Friday night had been carefully erased. "Mr. Grayson," she said formally, "come in." Her office was massive, windows on 2 walls overlooking the city, a desk that could comfortably seat 6 people, bookshelves lined with leather-bound volumes that looked like they'd never been opened. Everything was cold and perfect and designed to intimidate. Vivian closed the door behind him and walked to her desk. She didn't sit. Neither did he. "I assume you're wondering why I called you here," she said. "The thought crossed my mind. I've been reviewing our financial analysis team's performance metrics." She picked up a tablet from her desk. "Your work is exceptional, consistently accurate, ahead of deadlines, no errors in the past 18 months. Noah blinked. "Thank you." "I'm moving you to a new position," Vivian continued. "Senior analyst, direct report to the CFO. 30% salary increase, full benefits package, private office on the 58th floor. You start next Monday." Noah's brain struggled to process what he was hearing. "I don't understand." "It's a promotion, Mr. Grayson. Generally, people say yes." "Why?" "Because you're good at your job." "There are 50 people in financial analysis who are good at their jobs," Noah said. "Some of them have been here twice as long as me. Some of them have MBAs from schools I couldn't get into with a forged transcript. Why me?" Vivian set down the tablet. For just a second, her corporate mask slipped, and he saw something else underneath. Something that looked almost like fear. "Because I trust you," she said quietly. The words landed between them like a confession. "Vivian..." "Ms. Cross," she corrected sharply. "In this building, it's Ms. Cross." "Ms. Cross," Noah said carefully. "What are we doing?" "I'm offering you a promotion." "That's not what I'm asking." Vivian walked to the window and stood with her back to him. "I haven't been able to stop thinking about Friday night," she said. "About what you said. About being real." She turned around. "I spend every single day surrounded by people who want something from me. Money, access, approval, power. Everyone has an agenda. Everyone is performing." Her eyes met his. "You didn't perform. You just existed. Like I was a regular person having a bad night instead of a billionaire having a breakdown." "You are a regular person," Noah said. "No, I'm not. That's the problem." She crossed her arms. "But with you, for about an hour, I got to pretend I was." Noah understood then what she was really saying, what she was really asking for. "This is dangerous," he said. "I know. People will notice. They'll talk. Let them. You could lose everything." "I already have," Vivian said. "I just didn't realize it until Friday night." She took a step toward him. "I'm not asking for anything inappropriate, Noah. I'm not trying to seduce you or manipulate you or put you in an impossible position. I'm just asking if you'd be willing to have coffee with me again sometime. As friends. As 2 people who apparently need someone to be honest with." "Friends," Noah repeated. "Yes. Friends where one of us is a billionaire CEO and the other is a single father living paycheck to paycheck." "Friends where both of us are just people trying not to drown," Vivian corrected. Noah should have said no. Should have recognized this for the disaster it was guaranteed to become. Should have protected himself and Emma and the fragile stability he'd built. Instead, he heard himself say, "Okay." Vivian's expression shifted. Relief, maybe. Or something close to it. "Okay?" "One condition," Noah said. "Emma comes first, always. If this, whatever this is, puts her at risk in any way, I walk. No questions, no explanations. I just walk." "Agreed," Vivian said immediately. "And I'm taking the promotion because I earned it, not because of whatever this friendship is." "You did earn it. Just so we're clear." "We're clear." Vivian extended her hand. "Friends?" Noah looked at her hand for a long moment. Then he shook it. "Friends," he agreed. Neither of them mentioned that her hand was trembling. Neither of them mentioned that he didn't let go right away. And neither of them mentioned that somewhere in the handshake, something had shifted that neither of them could name, but both of them felt. It That night, Noah made pancakes for Emma like he'd promised. She chattered about her day at school, about her best friend Mia's new backpack, about how her teacher said she was getting really good at reading. "Daddy?" she said between bites. "Are you happy?" Noah paused. "What kind of question is that?" "I don't know. You just seem different today, like something good happened." Noah looked at his daughter, this fierce, perceptive little person who saw through every wall he tried to build. "Yeah, Em. Something good happened." "What?" "I made a new friend." Emma's eyes lit up. "Really? What's their name?" Noah hesitated for just a second. "Vivian? Is she nice?" "I think so. I don't really know yet." "Then how do you know your friends?" It was such a simple question, such a devastatingly accurate question. "I guess I don't," Noah admitted. "But sometimes you meet someone and you just want to find out." Emma considered this seriously. "Okay," she said finally. "But if she's not nice, you should stop being friends with her." "Deal." "And if she is nice, can I meet her?" Noah's chest tightened. "Maybe someday." "Promise?" "We'll see, Em." She accepted that answer with the easy confidence of a 6-year-old who trusted her father completely. Noah wished he had even a fraction of that certainty about what he'd just agreed to. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for today." "V?" Noah stared at it for a long moment. Then he typed back, "You're welcome. See you Friday?" The response came almost immediately. "It's a date." "Not a date. You know what I mean." Despite everything, despite the impossibility of it all, despite every alarm bell in his head, Noah smiled. Emma noticed. "You're smiling at your phone. That's what Mia's mom does when she texts with her boyfriend." "It's not like that," Noah said. "Okay, Daddy." She didn't believe him at all. Honestly, Noah wasn't sure he believed himself either. The promotion became official on a Wednesday morning when HR sent Noah a packet of paperwork so thick it could double as a weapon. New title, new salary, new office with an actual door that closed. His former cubicle mates congratulated him with the kind of forced enthusiasm that barely hid their resentment. Noah didn't blame them. He'd been promoted over people with twice his experience and none of his late-night coffee sessions with the CEO. By Friday afternoon, he was sitting in his new office on the 58th floor, trying to figure out how to work the coffee machine someone had installed on his desk when his phone buzzed. Rooftop. 6 p.m. Bring coffee from that terrible diner. V. Noah read the message 3 times. The rooftop of Vanguard Holdings wasn't exactly public space. It was a private terrace reserved for executive events and the kind of people who didn't need to ask permission for anything. He texted back, "How am I supposed to get past security? I own the building. I'll handle it." At 5:45, Noah left the office and walked 4 blocks to Mel's diner. The same exhausted waitress from last week filled 2 large cups with the same burnt coffee and didn't ask questions. Noah paid cash and carried them back to Vanguard, feeling like he was smuggling contraband. The elevator to the rooftop required a key card he didn't have. He was standing there trying to figure out his next move when a security guard appeared. "Mr. Grayson?" "Yeah." The guard swiped his own card and the elevator doors opened. "Ms. Cross is expecting you." Noah stepped inside. The doors closed. His reflection in the polished steel walls looked nervous. The rooftop was nothing like he'd imagined. No sleek furniture or corporate branding, just a simple terrace with a metal railing, a few weathered benches, and an unobstructed view of the entire city. The sun was starting to set, painting everything in shades of orange and gold. Vivian stood near the railing, her back to him. She'd taken off her suit jacket and loosened her hair from its usual tight bun. The wind caught it, sending dark strands across her face. "You came," she said without turning around. "You threatened to have me fired if I didn't." "I did no such thing." "It was implied." She turned and smiled. Actually smiled. It changed her entire face, made her look younger and less like a photograph in a business magazine. "Is that my terrible coffee?" Noah held up the cups. "As promised." They sat on one of the benches. Vivian took her coffee and made the same disgusted face as last time. "Why do you keep drinking it if you hate it?" Noah asked. "Because it's honest," Vivian said. "Everything in my life is carefully curated to be perfect. Perfect coffee, perfect food, perfect everything." This is just bad coffee that knows it's bad and doesn't apologize. She took another sip and grimaced. It's refreshing. They sat in silence for a while, watching the city light up as the sun disappeared. From up here, everything looked small and manageable. The traffic, the crowds, the chaos, just patterns of light and movement. "How's Emma?" Vivian asked. Noah was surprised she remembered his daughter's name. "She's good." Started asking uncomfortable questions about why I'm smiling at my phone. "What did you tell her?" "That I made a new friend. And?" "She wants to meet you." Vivian went very still. "Oh. I told her maybe someday." "Do you want her to meet me?" Noah considered the question carefully. "I don't know yet," he said honestly. "Emma's been through a lot. Her mom abandoning her, growing up watching me struggle. She doesn't need complicated in her life right now. And I'm complicated. You're the definition of complicated." Vivian didn't argue. "What was she like? Emma's mother?" Noah hadn't expected that question. "Driven," he said finally. "Smart, ambitious, always had a plan. I thought that was attractive. I thought it meant she knew what she wanted." He turned the coffee cup in his hands. Turns out what she wanted didn't include being a parent. "Do you hate her?" "No, I did for a while, but mostly I just feel sad for her. She's missing out on this incredible kid because she was too scared to try." "You're a better person than me," Vivian said quietly. "I'd hate her." "Give it time. I'm still working on forgiveness." They fell quiet again. A helicopter passed overhead, its lights blinking against the darkening sky. Somewhere below, a siren wailed. "Can I ask you something?" Vivian said. "Sure." "Why did you really come that night? To the conference room?" Noah thought about lying, about giving her some safe answer that wouldn't reveal too much. But they'd already passed the point of safe. "Because I saw someone who looked the way I feel most days," he said. "Like you're drowning and everyone around you thinks you're swimming." Vivian's breath caught. "Yeah," she whispered. "Yeah, that's exactly it. So I guess I came because I know what it's like to be that alone, and I thought maybe you shouldn't have to be." She looked at him with those sharp, exhausted eyes. "You're dangerous, Noah Grayson." "How do you figure?" "Because you make me want to be honest, and honesty is the one thing I can't afford." "Why not?" "Because the moment I show weakness, the vultures will circle." She set down her coffee and stood, walking to the railing. "Do you know how many people are waiting for me to fail? How many board members think I'm too young, too inexperienced, too emotional to run this company? They're just waiting for one mistake, one sign that I can't handle the pressure." Noah joined her at the railing. "So you perform perfection? Every single day? That sounds exhausting." "It is." She turned to face him. "But with you, I don't have to. You already saw me at my worst. You already know I'm not invincible. So what's the point in pretending?" "Maybe there isn't one." "That's what scares me," Vivian said. "I've spent 5 years building this image, and 1 month of honest conversations with you could destroy it." "Then maybe the image isn't worth protecting." "Easy for you to say. You don't have billions of dollars riding on your reputation." "No," Noah agreed. "I just have a 6-year-old who needs her father to keep his job so she can eat and have a place to sleep." "Different stakes, same fear." Vivian studied him for a long moment. Then she laughed, short and sharp. "We're both terrified, aren't we?" "Completely." "Then why are we doing this?" Noah didn't have a good answer for that. Or maybe he did, but it wasn't one he was ready to say out loud. That being around her made him feel less invisible. That her honesty made him want to be honest too. That for the first time in 3 years, he felt like someone actually saw him instead of just the single father struggling analyst he'd become. "Because sometimes you meet someone and you just want to find out," he said, echoing what he'd told Emma. "Find out what?" "Who they really are. Who you really are when you're with them." Vivian went quiet. The wind picked up, colder now that the sun had set. She wrapped her arms around herself. "I should go," Noah said. "Emma's probably giving Mrs. Chen a hard time about bedtime." "Noah?" He turned back. "Same time next week?" Vivian asked. She sounded uncertain, almost vulnerable. "Same time," Noah confirmed. He left her standing there on the rooftop, silhouetted against the city lights, looking small and powerful and terribly alone all at once. The weeks that followed developed a rhythm that Noah both craved and feared. Monday through Thursday, he worked his new position, navigating meetings with executives who'd never noticed him before and trying to prove he belonged in rooms where everyone else had Ivy League degrees. Fridays at 6 p.m., he met Vivian on the rooftop with terrible coffee and whatever honesty they could manage. They talked about everything and nothing. Vivian told him about growing up as the heir to a fortune she never asked for, about watching her father work himself into an early grave, about the impossible weight of living up to a dead man's expectations. Noah told her about raising Emma alone, about the constant fear that he wasn't enough, about the guilt of working late nights when he should be reading bedtime stories. They didn't talk about what they were doing or what it meant. They just existed in those stolen hours on the rooftop like the rest of the world had temporarily stopped demanding things from them. It couldn't last. Noah knew that. But knowing something and accepting it were two very different things. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday morning in late November. Noah was in a budget review meeting when Damian Blackwell walked in. Damian was a senior vice president, 43 years old, with the kind of polished confidence that came from never being told no. He had sandy hair that was probably dyed, a collection of watches that cost more than cars, and a reputation for being ruthless in negotiations. He was also, according to office gossip, furious that Vivian had turned down his proposal to restructure the entire executive team with him as COO. "Grayson," Damian said, interrupting the financial director mid-sentence. "Interesting to see you here." Everyone turned to look at Noah. "I was invited," Noah said carefully. "Of course you were." Damian smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Your promotion was quite the surprise. 4 years in analysis and suddenly you're reporting directly to the CFO. Makes one wonder what you did to earn such special treatment." The implication hung in the air like smoke. "I did my job," Noah said evenly. "I'm sure you did." Damian took a seat at the head of the table, uninvited. "I'm also sure Ms. Cross has her reasons for such unconventional staffing decisions." The financial director cleared her throat awkwardly. "Damian, this is a budget meeting. If you need something—" "Just observing," Damian said smoothly. "Please, continue." The meeting limped forward, but the damage was done. Noah could feel everyone's eyes on him, could practically hear the questions forming in their minds. He kept his expression neutral and his answers brief, but inside, his stomach was churning. After the meeting ended, he caught up with Damian in the hallway. "Can we talk?" Noah said. "Of course." Damian's smile was predatory. "My office?" They walked in silence to the executive suite on the 62nd floor. Damian's office was smaller than Vivian's, but designed to impress. Leather furniture, expensive art, floor-to-ceiling windows. He closed the door and gestured for Noah to sit. Noah remained standing. What was that about? What was what about? The comment in the meeting, the implication. "I didn't imply anything," Damian said innocently. "I simply noted that your promotion was surprising, which it was. I earned that position." "Did you?" Damian walked to his desk and leaned against it, arms crossed. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like Ms. Cross is playing favorites, and I'm curious why." "That's none of your business. Everything that happens in this company is my business," Damian said, his voice hardening, "especially when it involves our CEO making questionable decisions." "My promotion wasn't questionable. My work speaks for itself." "Your work is adequate, but adequate doesn't usually warrant a 30% raise in a private office." Damian studied him. "So what's really going on, Grayson? Are you sleeping with her?" Noah's hands clenched into fists. "I'm going to pretend you didn't just say that." "I'm going to keep saying it until I get a straight answer." Damian stood up, stepping closer. "Vivian Cross is brilliant. I'll give her that. But she's also young and inexperienced and prone to emotional decisions. If she's letting her personal feelings cloud her judgment, that's a problem. There's nothing going on between us." "Then why does she keep promoting you? Why do you have private meetings with her? Why?" "Because we're friends," Noah said, the words coming out harsher than he intended. "Is that so hard to believe?" Damian laughed. "Friends, right. The billionaire CEO and the single father from analysis. That's a very convenient friendship. I don't have to explain anything to you. No, but you will have to explain it to the board when I bring it up at the next meeting. Damien's expression turned cold. Vivian has been making a lot of questionable calls lately, turning down profitable mergers, selling off assets, promoting unqualified employees. The board is starting to notice, and if I can prove she's letting her personal life interfere with business decisions, they'll force her out. Noah felt ice slide down his spine. You're threatening her. I'm protecting this company from poor leadership. You're bitter because she didn't make you COO. I'm realistic, Damien corrected. Vivian inherited this position. She didn't earn it, and eventually everyone's going to realize she's in over her head. He walked back to his desk. You can leave now, Grayson, and think carefully about where your loyalties lie, because when this all falls apart, and it will, you'll want to be on the right side. Noah didn't trust himself to respond. He turned and walked out, his heart pounding. He went straight to Vivian's office. Caroline, her assistant, tried to stop him. Ms. Cross is in a meeting. I need to talk to her, now. Mr. Grayson, I can schedule... The door to Vivian's office opened. She stood there in a charcoal suit, looking irritated. What's going on? We need to talk, Noah said. Vivian looked at Caroline, then at Noah's expression. Give us a minute, she said. She ushered Noah inside and closed the door. What happened? Damien Blackwell just cornered me. He knows. Knows what? About us. About the rooftop meetings, the promotion, everything. He's going to use it against you. Vivian's expression went carefully blank. What exactly did he say? Noah recounted the conversation, watching Vivian's face harden with each word. By the end, she looked like she wanted to break something. That manipulative bastard, she said quietly. Is he right? Is the board really questioning your decisions? Some of them are. Damien's been spreading doubt for months. She walked to her desk and braced her hands against it. He wants my position. He's wanted it since the day I took over. Can he actually get you removed? If he convinces enough board members that I'm incompetent or unstable, yes. She looked up at Noah. And our friendship gives him exactly the ammunition he needs. The word friendship felt inadequate for what they'd built over the past 6 weeks, but neither of them had found a better word for it. So we stop, Noah said. No more rooftop meetings, no more coffee. We keep our distance, maintain professionalism, and he's got nothing. Vivian stared at him. Is that what you want? No, but it's the smart move. I didn't ask if it was smart. I asked if it's what you want. Noah met her eyes. What I want doesn't matter if it destroys your career. What if I don't care about my career? You don't mean that. Don't I? Vivian's voice rose. Noah, I've spent 5 years sacrificing everything for this company. My time, my relationships, my entire identity, and I'm still not enough for them. They still question every decision, still treat me like a child playing dress-up in her father's office. She crossed the room to stand in front of him. You're the only person in my life who treats me like I'm real. The only person who doesn't want something from me. And you think I'm going to give that up because some bitter executive is playing power games? Vivian, no, listen to me. Her eyes were fierce. I am so tired of pretending. I'm tired of performing perfection. I'm tired of being alone. Her voice cracked. I'm tired of feeling like if I let my guard down for even a second, everything will collapse. Noah didn't think. He just reached out and pulled her into a hug. She went rigid for a moment, surprised. Then she collapsed against him, her forehead pressed against his shoulder, her hands gripping the back of his jacket like she was drowning, and he was the only thing keeping her above water. They stood like that for a long time. Noah could feel her shaking, could feel her trying to hold herself together and failing. He tightened his arms around her and let her fall apart. I've got you, he said quietly. It's okay. I've got you. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were red but dry. She'd cried all her tears out weeks ago on that first night. Now there was just exhaustion. This is a disaster, she said. Probably. We should stop seeing each other. Probably. But I don't want to. Neither do I. Vivian laughed weakly. We're both idiots. Completely. She walked to the window and stared out at the city. Damien's going to come after you too, you know. He'll try to discredit you, make it look like you're using me for advancement. Let him try. Noah, he could destroy your career. And you could destroy mine with a single email, Noah pointed out. But you haven't, because you're not that person, no matter what Damien thinks. He moved to stand beside her. I'm not scared of him. I'm scared of losing this. Whatever this is. What is this? Vivian asked. It was the question neither of them had dared to ask. The question that had been building for weeks. I don't know, Noah admitted. But I know it matters. And I know I don't want to walk away from it just because someone's trying to weaponize it. Vivian turned to look at him, really look at him. You should walk away, she said. You have Emma to think about. You can't risk your job for what? For you? Noah shook his head. Vivian, Emma's already asked to meet you. She sees me smiling for the first time in 3 years and she wants to know why. That's not nothing. You haven't told her who I am. No, but I want to. The words came out before Noah could stop them. I want her to meet you. I want you to meet her. I want to stop hiding this like it's something wrong. It might be something wrong. Or it might be the first right thing either of us has done in years. Vivian's expression shifted. Something vulnerable and terrified and hopeful all at once. You're serious? Completely. Noah, I don't know how to be around kids. I don't know what to say or how to act. I'll probably mess it up. Join the club. I mess it up daily. And if she doesn't like me? Then we figure it out. Noah reached out and took her hand. It was the first time they'd touched since the hug, and the contact felt electric. But I think she will, because she's smart and she sees through people's defenses, and she knows when someone's genuine, just like her dad. Vivian's fingers tightened around his. This is insane. I know. We could both lose everything. I know. But you still want to do it? Yes. She looked down at their joined hands, then back up at his face. Okay, she whispered. Okay. They agreed on Sunday afternoon at a park near Noah's apartment. Neutral ground, public enough to be safe, informal enough not to terrify a 6-year-old. Vivian showed up 15 minutes early wearing jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than Noah's monthly rent, but at least made her look less like a corporate executive and more like a regular person. Noah and Emma arrived right on time. Emma was wearing her favorite purple jacket and the light-up sneakers she'd begged for last month. She held Noah's hand tightly, suddenly shy. That's Vivian, Noah said, pointing to the bench where Vivian sat looking nervous. She's pretty, Emma whispered. She is. But remember, pretty doesn't mean nice. You'll have to decide if you like her. Emma nodded seriously. They walked over. Vivian stood up as they approached. Her smile looked forced, uncertain. Hi, she said. You must be Emma. Emma looked up at her father. Noah gave her an encouraging nod. Hi, Emma said quietly. You're my daddy's friend. I am, Vivian confirmed. She knelt down so she was at Emma's eye level. I've heard a lot about you. Your dad says you're really good at reading. I'm the best reader in my class, Emma said, gaining confidence. I just finished a whole chapter book by myself. That's amazing. What was it about? A girl who finds a magic garden. It was really good. I love stories about gardens, Vivian said. Noah had no idea if that was true or if she was just being polite. Do you like parks? Emma nodded. Especially the swings. I haven't been on a swing in probably 20 years. Emma's eyes went wide. 20 years? That's so long. You should come swing with me. Vivian glanced at Noah. He shrugged, trying not to smile. You heard the lady. They walked to the playground together. Emma ran ahead, her light-up shoes flashing with each step. Vivian fell into step beside Noah. I'm terrible at this, she muttered. You're doing fine. I don't know how to talk to children. You're talking to her right now. I'm faking it. So is every parent, including me. Emma had already claimed a swing and was pumping her legs, gaining height. Push me, she called to Vivian. Vivian looked panicked. Noah laughed and nudged her forward. Go on, she won't bite. Vivian walked behind Emma's swing and gave a tentative push. Harder, Emma shouted. Vivian pushed harder. Emma squealed with delight, soaring higher. And slowly, gradually, Vivian's nervous expression transformed into something that looked almost like joy. Noah stood back and watched them. Vivian, the billionaire CEO who commanded boardrooms and made million-dollar decisions without blinking, was pushing his daughter on a swing and laughing when Emma kicked her legs out for more height. Emma, who'd spent 3 years being cautious around new people because her mother had left, was chattering away to Vivian about her favorite books and her best friend Mia and how she wanted a dog, but Daddy said their apartment was too small. Something in Noah's chest cracked open. Not breaking, expanding. After the swings came the slide, then the monkey bars where Vivian admitted she couldn't make it across, and Emma demonstrated proper technique. They found a hot dog cart and ate lunch on a bench while Emma told Vivian about her school and her teacher and the boy in her class who kept pulling her hair. "What did you do?" Vivian asked. "I told him to stop, and when he didn't, I told the teacher." "Good. You should always tell someone when people aren't treating you right." Emma considered this seriously. "Did you tell someone when people weren't treating you right?" Vivian blinked, caught off guard. She glanced at Noah, who was trying not to look too interested in her answer. "Not always," Vivian admitted. "Sometimes I just pretended it didn't bother me." "That's silly," Emma said matter-of-factly. "If something bothers you, you should say so." "You're absolutely right," Vivian smiled. "You're very smart, Emma." "I know," Emma said, without any trace of arrogance. "Daddy tells me all the time." By the time they walked back to Noah's apartment building, Emma was holding Vivian's hand. Noah wasn't sure when that had happened, but the sight of it made his throat tight. At the door, Emma hugged Vivian goodbye without being prompted. "Can you come to my school play?" she asked. "It's in 2 weeks. I'm playing a tree." Vivian looked to Noah. He nodded. "I'd love to," Vivian said. Emma beamed. "Okay, bye, Vivian." She ran inside, leaving Noah and Vivian standing on the sidewalk. "She liked you," Noah said. "She's incredible." Vivian's eyes were bright. "You're raising an incredible human being." "We have our moments." "Noah, I've never—" She stopped, searching for words. "I've never felt like that before. Like I was part of something real. Like I belonged somewhere that mattered." "You do belong," Noah said quietly. "If you want to." Vivian looked at him with those fierce, vulnerable eyes. "I want to," she whispered. "I really want to." Noah reached out and took her hand right there on the sidewalk where anyone could see. "Then stay." She squeezed his fingers. "Okay." They stood there for a moment that stretched and bent, neither of them quite ready to let go. "I should go," Vivian said finally. "I have a board meeting tomorrow morning." "About Damien?" "Among other things." Her expression hardened. "He's not going to stop. You know that, right?" "I know." "This is going to get worse before it gets better." "I know that too." "And you're still here," Noah finished. "Still all in." Vivian's smile was small but genuine. "You're either very brave or very stupid. Can it be both?" She laughed, and the sound felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. Then she stood on her toes and kissed his cheek, quick and soft and over before he could fully process it. "See you Friday?" she asked, already backing away. Noah touched his cheek where her lips had been. "Friday?" he confirmed. He watched her walk to her car, not a driver this time, just her in jeans and a sweater looking almost normal. She waved once before getting in, and he waved back. Inside, Emma was waiting by the window. "I like her, Daddy," she announced. "Yeah?" Noah's heart was still doing strange things in his chest. "What do you like about her?" "She listens when I talk, and she doesn't pretend to know things she doesn't know, and she makes you happy." Emma tilted her head. "Are you going to marry her?" Noah nearly choked. "What?" "No, we're just friends, Em. You don't kiss friends on the cheek." "You were spying." "I was looking out the window. That's different." Emma grinned. "It's okay if you like her, Daddy. She's nice, and you deserve nice things." Noah pulled his daughter into a hug and held her tight. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. You're just noticing now." That night, after Emma was asleep, Noah's phone buzzed. "Thank you for today. Emma is wonderful. You're wonderful. I'm terrified and happy, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I don't want to stop. Noah read it 3 times before responding. Neither do I. See you Friday. Don't be late. I'm never late. You were early today. That's basically the same thing. That's terrible logic. You liked it anyway. A pause. Then, yeah, I did. Noah fell asleep smiling, with no idea that Damian Blackwell was already setting his trap, that the board meeting tomorrow morning would be the beginning of the end, or that in less than 2 weeks, everything they'd built would come crashing down around them. For now, there was just this: the memory of Vivian pushing Emma on the swings, the feeling of her hand in his, the hope that maybe, just maybe, they could build something real out of all this impossible mess. It was a fragile hope, but it was hope nonetheless. And for Noah Grayson, that was more than he'd had in a very long time. The board meeting started at 9 a.m. sharp in the glass conference room where Noah had first seen Vivian fall apart. He wasn't invited, but he heard about it within the hour through the office grapevine that moved faster than any official communication channel. Damian had brought photos. Not of anything inappropriate, because there was nothing inappropriate to photograph. Just Vivian and Noah on the rooftop terrace, sitting on a bench with coffee cups. Vivian and Noah entering her office together. Vivian and Noah at the park with Emma, captured from a distance that made it clear someone had been following them. The images themselves were innocent. The context Damian built around them was anything but. Noah was in his office reviewing quarterly projections when his phone rang. Vivian's name on the screen. "Hey," he answered. "Can you come to my office?" Her voice was tight, controlled. "Now." He found her standing by the window, her back rigid. Caroline wasn't at her desk. The entire executive suite felt eerily quiet. "What happened?" Noah asked, closing the door behind him. Vivian turned. Her expression was carefully blank, but Noah had learned to read the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands clenched when she was fighting to stay composed. "Damian presented evidence to the board that I'm having an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate," she said. "That I promoted you based on personal feelings rather than merit. That I'm making corporate decisions while emotionally compromised." Noah felt his stomach drop. "The photos from the park. Among others, he's been having us followed for weeks." She walked to her desk and pulled up an email on her screen. "The board is demanding an investigation. They want to interview both of us separately. They want to review every decision I've made since you were promoted." "Can they do that?" "They're the board. They can do whatever they want." Vivian's voice cracked slightly. "And if they decide I violated company policy or acted unethically, they can remove me." Noah crossed the room to stand beside her. "We haven't done anything wrong." "Haven't we?" She looked at him. "Noah, I promoted you because you're brilliant at your job. But I also promoted you because I wanted you closer, because I wanted to see you more, because I liked talking to you." She turned away. "How is that not a conflict of interest?" "Because one doesn't cancel out the other. You can recognize someone's talent and also enjoy their company." "Tell that to the board." "I will." "When's the interview?" "Tomorrow morning at 10. They want to speak to you first." Vivian's hands were shaking now. "Noah, they're going to ask you personal questions about our relationship, about Emma, about everything, and whatever you say will either save me or destroy me." "Then I'll tell them the truth." "The truth is complicated." "The truth is that we're friends," Noah said firmly. "That we support each other. That you saw my work and recognized its value. That's not a scandal. That's just human connection. In their world, human connection is a liability." "Then their world is broken." Vivian laughed bitterly. "You're finally catching on." She sank into her desk chair, suddenly looking exhausted. "I'm going to lose this, Noah. I can feel it. Damian's been planning this for months. He has allies on the board, people who've never trusted me. This is the ammunition he needed." "So we fight back." "With what? Photos of us having coffee? Text messages about meeting on Friday? Evidence that I invited you to my daughter's school play?" She looked up at him. "Oh, wait. That last one is Emma's play tomorrow night, which I'm now going to miss because I'll be in emergency board meetings trying to save my career." The devastation in her voice hit Noah like a physical blow. "Vivian, I promised her I'd be there. She asked me specifically. And I'm going to let her down because Damian Blackwell decided to weaponize the one good thing in my life. Noah knelt beside her chair. Hey, look at me. She did, reluctantly. Emma will understand, he said. She's 6, but she's tough. She'll be disappointed, but she'll get over it. What she won't get over is watching you give up. I'm not giving up. Aren't you? Because it sounds like you've already decided you've lost. Vivian's jaw tightened. I'm being realistic. You're being scared, which is fair, but it's not the same as being defeated. Noah took her hands. You told me once that you're tired of pretending. So stop. Go into that boardroom tomorrow and tell them exactly what happened. That you met someone who treats you like a human being instead of a corporate asset. That you made business decisions based on merit. That your personal life is none of their concern as long as you're doing your job. And if they don't accept that, then you walk away knowing you told the truth. But at least you tried. Vivian stared at him. You really believe that will work? I believe you're stronger than Damian Blackwell and every board member combined. And I believe that if you go down, you should go down fighting. Something shifted in her expression. The fear was still there, but underneath it was something harder. Something fierce. Okay, she said quietly. Okay. Noah's interview the next morning was exactly as brutal as he'd expected. 3 board members sat across from him in a windowless conference room. An older man named Richard, who looked like he'd never smiled in his life. A sharp-eyed woman named Patricia, who took notes on everything. And Marcus Chen, who at least had the decency to look uncomfortable about the whole thing. Mr. Grayson, Richard began, you understand why we've asked you here. You want to know about my relationship with Miss Cross. Your inappropriate relationship. There's nothing inappropriate about it. Patricia looked up from her notes. You're having private meetings with the CEO on the rooftop terrace, meeting her at parks with your daughter, texting her outside of work hours. And you see nothing inappropriate about that? We're friends, Noah said. Is friendship against company policy? Friendship that results in preferential treatment is. My promotion wasn't preferential, it was earned. Was it? Richard leaned forward. Because your personnel file shows adequate performance, but nothing exceptional. Yet Ms. Cross promoted you over multiple candidates with superior qualifications. Noah kept his voice level. My performance reviews show consistent excellence in financial analysis, 0 errors in reporting, and innovative approaches to debt modeling that saved the company $14 million last quarter alone. If that's not exceptional, I'd like to know your standards. Marcus spoke up for the first time. No one's questioning your abilities, Mr. Grayson. We're questioning the timing and circumstances of your advancement. The timing was when Ms. Cross finally noticed work that had been overlooked for 4 years, Noah said. The circumstances were that I'm good at my job and she recognized it. I can't apologize for that. Can you explain why Ms. Cross meets with you privately when she doesn't extend the same courtesy to other employees at your level? Patricia asked. Noah chose his words carefully. Ms. Cross and I have formed a friendship based on mutual respect and honesty. She values having someone she can talk to without corporate politics getting in the way. I value having someone who sees me as more than just another employee. That's not a conflict of interest. That's just 2 people connecting as human beings. Human beings, Richard repeated skeptically. Is that what you call meeting secretly on rooftops? We meet on the rooftop because it's private and quiet, not because we're doing anything wrong. And the park meeting? With your daughter? Noah's hands clenched under the table. Ms. Cross met my daughter because my daughter asked to meet her. Emma is 6 years old, and she wanted to know who was making her father happy. There's nothing sinister about that. But it does suggest a relationship that goes beyond professional boundaries, Patricia said. It suggests that Ms. Cross cares about the people in her life, that she's willing to show up for them, that she's human. Noah looked at each of them in turn. Have any of you ever asked Ms. Cross how she's doing, actually doing, or do you just show up to board meetings and critique her decisions while she carries the weight of this entire company alone? The room went silent. Mr. Grayson, Marcus said carefully, we're not the ones under investigation here. Maybe you should be, Noah said, because from where I'm sitting, the real problem isn't that Ms. Cross formed a friendship with an employee. It's that she's so isolated in her position that forming any kind of genuine connection is treated like a corporate scandal. Richard's expression hardened. Watch your tone. Or what? You'll fire me? Go ahead. But firing me doesn't change the fact that Vivian Cross is the best thing that ever happened to this company, and you're punishing her for being human. We're done here, Richard said coldly. You can leave. Noah stood. One more thing. Whatever you decide about Ms. Cross or about me, Emma's school play is tonight at 7 p.m. Ms. Cross promised she'd be there, and if your investigation prevents her from keeping that promise, you're not protecting this company. You're just proving that the people running it have forgotten what actually matters. He walked out before they could respond. His phone rang before he made it to the elevator. Vivian. How bad was it? She asked. I probably just got myself fired. What did you say? The truth. That you're brilliant and they're idiots. Noah, I'm not sorry. He stepped into the elevator and hit the button for the ground floor. How's your meeting going? Still ongoing. They're combing through every decision I've made in the last 6 months. Damien's loving every minute of it. Her voice dropped. I don't think I'm going to make it to Emma's play. Noah's chest tightened. I know. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just fight. I am fighting. But Noah, even if I win this battle, there will be others. Damien won't stop. The board won't stop. And every time we're seen together, it will be used against me. So what are you saying? Silence. Then, I don't know. I just need you to understand what staying in my life means. The scrutiny, the judgment, the constant pressure. It's not going to get easier. I never thought it would be easy, Noah said. I just thought it would be worth it. Is it? Still? He didn't hesitate. Yes. Even if it costs you your job? Even then. He could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. I have to go, she said finally. They're calling me back in. Vivian? Yeah? Don't let them make you small. The line went quiet for a moment, then, thank you. She hung up. Noah spent the rest of the day in a fog of anxiety and anger. He couldn't focus on work, couldn't stop checking his phone for updates. By 5 p.m., he gave up and went home early. Emma was waiting with Mrs. Chen, already in her tree costume made from brown felt and green construction paper leaves. Do I look like a tree? She asked, spinning around. The best tree I've ever seen, Noah said, forcing enthusiasm into his voice. Is Vivian coming? Noah knelt down to Emma's level. She's trying, Em, but she has some really important work stuff happening right now. Emma's face fell. She promised. I know. And she wanted to be here, but sometimes grown-ups have to deal with things they can't control. Like when Mommy left? The question hit Noah like a punch to the gut. No, sweetheart, not like that. Vivian wants to be here. She's just stuck at work. But she's the boss. Can't she just leave? It's complicated. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Everyone always says things are complicated. I'm tired of complicated. Noah pulled her into a hug. I know, baby. Me too. They made it to the school auditorium by 6:30. Emma's teacher, Miss Rodriguez, helped get all the kids organized backstage while parents filled the seats. Noah sat in the third row, saving an empty seat beside him that he knew would stay empty. His phone buzzed at 6:47. I'm so sorry, board meeting is still going. Tell Emma I'm thinking of her. Noah typed back. She understands. Good luck. The play started at 7. Emma stood on stage with 4 other trees swaying gently while the main characters, a princess and a dragon, acted out their story. She saw Noah in the audience and gave a little wave. He waved back, his heart breaking for the empty seat beside him. The play was barely 20 minutes long. Afterward, parents crowded around taking photos, while kids ran around hyped up on juice boxes and cookies. Emma found Noah in the chaos. Did you see me? I swayed the best. You were amazing, Noah said honestly. Where's Vivian? Still at work, Em. Emma nodded, trying to look brave. It's okay. She's busy. But it wasn't okay. Noah could see it in the way Emma's smile didn't quite reach her eyes, in the way she kept glancing at the auditorium doors like Vivian might still appear. They were walking to the car when Noah's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Grayson, this is Marcus Chen from the Vanguard board. Do you have a moment? Noah's stomach dropped. Sure. I wanted to inform you that the board has completed its preliminary investigation. We've decided not to pursue any disciplinary action against you at this time. Relief flooded through him. And Ms. Cross? That's a separate matter still under discussion. But I thought you should know that your interview today was impactful. You gave the board some things to think about. Like what? Like whether we've created an environment where our CEO feels she can't form normal human relationships without being investigated. Like whether we're so focused on protocol that we've forgotten what leadership actually looks like. Marcus paused. Not everyone on the board agrees with me, but you made some valid points. Will she be removed? I can't discuss that, but I wanted you to know that some of us are fighting for her too. The line went dead. Noah stood there in the school parking lot, Emma tugging on his hand, trying to process what that meant. Daddy? Are we going home? Yeah, Em, let's go home. They were halfway through dinner when Noah's phone rang again. This time it was Vivian. It's over, she said. Her voice sounded hollow. What happened? The board voted. 7-5. I'm still CEO. Noah felt like he could breathe for the first time all day. That's amazing. Is it? 7-5, Noah. Almost half the board wanted me gone. And the only reason I survived is because Marcus Chen convinced 3 swing votes that removing me would tank the stock price. She laughed bitterly. Not because I'm good at my job, not because I've tripled company value, because firing me would be bad PR. You won. That's what matters. I won this round. Damien's already planning his next move. I can see it in his face. She went quiet for a moment. I missed Emma's play. She did great, swayed like a professional tree. I'm sorry I wasn't there. She understands. Does she? Because I made a promise and I broke it. Vivian, you were fighting for your career. Emma's tough. She'll forgive you. Will she? Vivian's voice cracked. Or will this be the first of many promises I break because my job demands it? Because that's what everyone keeps telling me. That I can't have this. That being CEO means sacrificing everything else. You don't have to sacrifice anything you don't want to. Don't I? She sounded exhausted. Noah, today made it clear. The board, the shareholders, the executives, they're all watching me. One mistake and they'll use it to destroy me. And you and Emma, you're both targets now. Damien knows that hurting you hurts me. How long before he goes after you again? After Emma. Fear crawled up Noah's spine. He wouldn't. He had us followed to a park. He photographed your daughter without permission. What makes you think he has limits? Noah had no answer for that. I need time to think, Vivian said, about what I'm doing, about whether dragging you and Emma into this mess is fair. We're already in it. We chose this. Emma didn't choose anything. She's 6 years old and she's already disappointed because I couldn't keep one simple promise. Vivian, I have to go. I'll call you later. She hung up before he could argue. Noah stared at his phone, dread settling in his chest. Emma appeared in the doorway, already in her pajamas. Was that Vivian? Yeah. Is she okay? Noah forced a smile. She's just tired, Em. It was a long day. Can I talk to her? Not right now, sweetheart. She's busy. Emma's face fell again. She's always busy. The words hit harder than they should have. Hey, come here. Noah pulled Emma onto his lap. Vivian cares about you very much. She wanted to be at your play. She's just dealing with some adult stuff that's really hard right now. Like when you have to work late? Yeah, like that. But you always come home. I do. Will Vivian come home too? The question was so innocent, so full of hope, that Noah didn't know how to answer it. Because the truth was, he had no idea what Vivian would do. Whether she'd decide that protecting her position meant cutting them out. Whether the pressure would break her. Whether she'd choose the safe path over the uncertain one. I hope so, Em, he said quietly. I really hope so. That night, after Emma was asleep, Noah sat alone in his living room staring at his phone, waiting for Vivian to call back. She didn't. He texted her at midnight. Still here. Whatever you decide, I'm still here. The response came an hour later. I know. That's what scares me. Noah fell asleep on the couch, his phone in his hand, wondering if he'd just witnessed the beginning of the end or just another battle in a war that would never truly finish. The next morning brought an email from HR. Noah was being reassigned. Not fired, not demoted, just moved to a different division. Financial forecasting for international markets. Same salary, different floor, reporting to a different CFO. Far away from Vivian's direct chain of command. The message was clear: keep your distance. Noah called Vivian immediately. She picked up on the first ring. "You got the email," she said. "You knew about this?" "The board suggested it. I agreed." "Without talking to me first?" "Noah, they were going to fire you. This was the compromise." "I don't want a compromise. I want—" "What? To keep fighting this battle every day? To keep putting Emma at risk? To keep watching me destroy my career for the sake of Friday coffee meetings?" Her voice was sharp, defensive. "This is better. For both of us. You don't get to decide what's better for me. Someone has to make the smart choice here. And I'm not smart enough to make my own decisions? That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" Silence stretched between them. Noah could hear her breathing, could imagine her standing in that massive office with the city spread out behind her, trying to hold everything together. "I can't do this," Vivian said finally. "I can't be the person you need and the CEO this company needs. I can't keep Emma's hopes up when I know I'm going to disappoint her. I can't keep pulling you into my mess." "It's not a mess. It's just complicated." "I'm tired of complicated," Vivian said, echoing Emma's words from the night before. "I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of feeling like I'm failing at everything." "You're not failing." "Yes, I am. At this. At us. At being the person I want to be." She took a shaky breath. "Maybe Damien was right. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe trying to have a normal life while running a billion-dollar company was always going to be impossible." "Vivian, I need space, Noah. Time to figure out who I am without you telling me I'm stronger than I feel." The words landed like a physical blow. "You're ending this. I'm protecting you." "I don't need protecting. I need—" "What? Me? Because that's not fair. You can't need me when I'm barely holding myself together." Noah closed his eyes. "What about Emma?" "Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I tried." "She doesn't want an apology. She wants you to show up." "Then she's going to be disappointed, because that's all I seem to do lately. Disappoint people." "Stop talking like you've already given up. I'm being realistic." "You're being scared." "Maybe scared is the smart choice." Vivian's voice rose. "Maybe walking away before I destroy both of us is the right thing to do. Or maybe," Noah said quietly, "it's just the easy thing." The silence that followed was deafening. "Goodbye, Noah," Vivian whispered. The line went dead. Noah sat there in his new office on the 44th floor, staring at the phone in his hand, feeling like the ground had just opened up beneath him. She'd chosen her empire over them, just like he'd known she might, just like he'd been terrified she would. And the worst part was he couldn't even blame her, because in her world, love was a liability, connection was a weakness, and the only way to survive was to cut out anything that made you human. Noah had just learned that lesson the hard way. 3 weeks passed like sleepwalking through fog. Noah went to his new position, crunched numbers for international markets he'd never visit, and came home to Emma's questions about why Vivian didn't visit anymore. He gave vague answers that satisfied no one, especially not himself. Emma stopped asking after the first week. She just got quieter, more withdrawn, started playing alone in her room instead of chattering about her day. Noah recognized the signs because he'd seen them in the mirror every morning since Vivian's call. They were both grieving someone who was still alive. Noah threw himself into work because it was easier than thinking. His new supervisor, a perpetually stressed woman named Janet, seemed relieved to have someone competent who didn't need constant oversight. He finished projects ahead of schedule, volunteered for extra assignments, stayed late reviewing forecasts that didn't need reviewing. Anything to avoid going home to an apartment that felt emptier than it had in years. He didn't see Vivian, didn't hear from her. The closest he got was occasionally glimpsing her name in company-wide emails about quarterly targets or strategic initiatives. She might as well have been a ghost. But the rumors were everywhere. Whispered conversations in break rooms, speculation over lunch, pointed looks when Noah walked past. Everyone knew something had happened between the CEO and the analyst. Nobody knew exactly what, which made the gossip worse. Damian Blackwell seemed particularly pleased with himself. Noah saw him once in the elevator, that same predatory smile on his face. "Heard you got transferred," Damian said. "Shame. You were doing so well in your old position." Noah stared straight ahead. "I'm doing fine where I am." "Of course you are. Though I imagine it's lonely being separated from your friends." The word friends dripped with implication. But that's what happens when people forget their place. The elevator doors opened. Noah stepped out without responding. "Give my regards to Ms. Cross," Damian called after him. "If you still talk to her, that is." Noah kept walking. That night, Emma had a nightmare. She woke up crying, calling for her mother. Not Vivian, Rachel, the woman who'd left 3 years ago and never looked back. Noah held his daughter while she sobbed, her small body shaking against his chest. "Why doesn't anyone stay?" Emma asked between gasps. "Why does everyone leave?" "I'm here," Noah said, his own voice breaking. "I'm not going anywhere, Em, I promise." "But Mommy left, and Vivian left. And what if you leave too?" "I won't, never." "That's what Vivian said. She said she'd come to my play. She said she wanted to meet me. And then she just disappeared." Noah had no answer for that. No way to explain that sometimes adults made choices that hurt people they cared about. That sometimes fear was stronger than love. That sometimes the world demanded sacrifices that broke everyone involved. "I'm sorry, baby," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Emma cried herself back to sleep in his arms. Noah carried her to bed and tucked her in, then stood in her doorway watching her breathe. The light from the hallway caught the tear tracks on her face. He pulled out his phone and typed a message to Vivian before he could stop himself. "Emma had a nightmare tonight. Asked why everyone leaves. I didn't know what to tell her." He stared at it for a long moment, then deleted it without sending. What was the point? Vivian had made her choice. Guilting her into changing it wouldn't fix anything. It would just make everyone feel worse. Noah went to bed alone and didn't sleep. The emergency board meeting was called on a Friday morning. Noah heard about it the same way he heard about everything else these days, through the rumor mill. Apparently, Damian had uncovered financial irregularities in one of Vivian's recent acquisitions. Numbers that didn't add up, contracts that seemed rushed, due diligence that appeared incomplete. The whispers suggested Vivian had made a catastrophic mistake, that her emotional instability was finally showing in her business decisions, that the board was considering emergency action. Noah didn't believe it. He'd seen Vivian's work, knew how meticulous she was about every detail, but he also knew she'd been under enormous pressure for weeks. Isolated, attacked, second-guessed at every turn. Maybe she had made a mistake. Maybe the weight of it all had finally caught up to her. He tried calling her cell phone. It went straight to voicemail. He tried her office. Caroline answered in a clipped, professional tone that suggested she'd been instructed not to put anyone through. "I need to speak with Ms. Cross," Noah said. "Ms. Cross is in meetings all day. I can take a message." "This is important." "So are her meetings. I'm sorry, Mr. Grayson." The line went dead. Noah sat at his desk, staring at spreadsheets he couldn't focus on, trying to decide what to do. Walk away like Vivian had asked him to, respect her decision to handle this alone, or ignore every signal she'd sent and fight anyway. He was still debating when his desk phone rang. Internal number he didn't recognize. Noah Grayson. "Mr. Grayson, this is Marcus Chen. Can you come to the executive conference room on 65 immediately?" "I'm not sure I'm supposed to be in executive meetings anymore." "You're not. But Ms. Cross specifically requested you, and given the circumstances, the board agreed." Noah's pulse spiked. "What circumstances?" "Just get up here. Now." Noah took the elevator with his heart hammering against his ribs. The executive suite was chaos. People rushing between offices, phones ringing, voices raised behind closed doors. Caroline saw him and pointed to the conference room without a word. Inside, the entire board was assembled. Vivian sat at the head of the table, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was pulled back so tight it must have hurt. Her suit was immaculate, but her face was pale, drawn. She looked up when Noah entered and something flickered in her eyes. Relief, maybe. Or fear. Damian sat 3 seats down, looking smug. Mr. Grayson, Richard said, thank you for joining us. Ms. Cross insisted you be present for this discussion. Noah looked at Vivian. She gave the smallest nod. Okay, Noah said slowly. What's going on? Mr. Blackwell has raised concerns about the Meridian acquisition, Marcus said. He's presented evidence suggesting Ms. Cross rushed the deal without proper due diligence, resulting in the company overpaying by approximately $40 million. Noah's mind raced. The Meridian acquisition had closed 2 months ago. He'd reviewed some of the preliminary financials in his old position. What evidence? Internal emails showing Ms. Cross overriding her advisory team's recommendations, Damien said smoothly. Contracts signed before final audits were complete, valuations that ignored significant red flags. May I see the emails? Noah asked. Richard slid a folder across the table. Noah flipped it open and scanned the contents. Email chains between Vivian and her advisory team, disagreements about valuation models, Vivian pushing to close the deal faster than recommended. On the surface, it looked damning, but Noah had spent 4 years analyzing financial decisions. He knew how to read between the lines. These emails are out of context, he said. Excuse me? Damien's smile faded. You've cherry-picked messages that make it look like Ms. Cross ignored advice. But where are the follow-up emails? The revised models? The final risk assessments? Those are irrelevant. They're the entire point. Noah pulled out his phone and opened his email archive. He'd kept copies of everything from his old position out of habit. Here, Ms. Cross's team raised concerns about the initial valuation on November 3rd. She acknowledged those concerns on November 4th and requested additional analysis. They provided updated models on November 7th showing the deal was actually underpriced at the original offer. She closed on November 12th, after all the revised due diligence was complete. He turned his phone to show the email thread. You showed them half the story, the half that makes her look reckless. But the complete picture shows she did exactly what she should have done. Listened to concerns, demanded better data, and made an informed decision. The room went silent. Patricia leaned forward. Why do you have these emails, Mr. Grayson? You weren't directly involved in the Meridian acquisition. I was copied on all major financial analysis in my previous role. Standard protocol. And you just happen to keep them? I keep everything, also standard protocol. Damien's expression had gone cold. This doesn't change the fact that Ms. Cross overpaid. By whose calculation? Noah interrupted. Because Meridian's stock price has increased 23% since acquisition. Their revenue is up. Their market share is growing. By every objective measure, Ms. Cross got a bargain. Short-term gains don't. Actually, they do. Noah was on a roll now, channeling every ounce of anger and frustration from the past 3 weeks into sharp, precise analysis. The entire premise of your accusation is that Ms. Cross made an emotional, rushed decision that cost the company money. But the data proves otherwise. She made a calculated, well-researched decision that's already paying off. The only thing emotional here is your vendetta. Watch yourself, Grayson, Damien said. Or what? You'll have me investigated again? You'll take more photos of me having coffee with a friend? Noah turned to face the board. Damien Blackwell has spent months trying to undermine Ms. Cross because she didn't give him the power he wanted. This isn't about protecting the company. It's about a bruised ego. That's enough, Richard said sharply. Is it? Because I've sat through meetings where I was interrogated about having coffee with my boss. I've watched as every decision Ms. Cross makes is scrutinized and questioned in ways that male CEOs never experience. I've seen her work twice as hard for half the credit. Noah's voice rose. And now you're sitting here considering removing her based on cherry-picked emails that deliberately misrepresent her work. If that's your standard for leadership, this company's in worse shape than I thought. Vivian was staring at him. Noah couldn't read her expression. Marcus cleared his throat. Mr. Grayson raises valid points. The complete email record does provide important context. Context doesn't change the fundamentals, Damien started. Actually, it changes everything, Patricia said, cutting him off. She was looking at Damien with something that might have been disgust. You presented this as evidence of incompetence, but what Mr. Grayson showed us is evidence of exactly the opposite. Miss Cross did her job properly. I have other concerns. I'm sure you do, Marcus said dryly. And we'll evaluate them with the same scrutiny we should have applied here. Richard looked at Vivian. Ms. Cross, do you have anything to add? Vivian had been silent through the entire exchange. Now she stood slowly, her hands braced on the table. I have something to say, she said quietly. Not about Meridian. About all of this. The room waited. For 5 years I have worked to prove I deserve this position, Vivian said. I have sacrificed my personal life, my relationships, my mental health. I have made myself into exactly what I thought you wanted. Cold, detached, perfect. She looked around the table, and it's never been enough. There's always another test, another standard I fail to meet, another reason to question whether I belong here. Ms. Cross, Richard began. I'm not finished. Her voice was stronger now. Damien is right about one thing. I have made emotional decisions. I promoted Noah Grayson because I valued his work, but also because I valued his friendship. I've taken risks on acquisitions because I trusted my instincts. I've prioritized relationships over protocols. She straightened. And I'm not apologizing for that, because those emotional decisions have tripled this company's value. Those relationships have given me insights that pure data never could. And that friendship you all investigated, it made me a better leader. This is highly inappropriate, Damien said. What's inappropriate, Vivian said, turning to face him directly, is you having a member of your staff follow me and photograph me with a child. What's inappropriate is you weaponizing my personal life because I refuse to promote you. What's inappropriate is this entire board allowing it to happen. Damien's face flushed red. You were protecting your own ambition. Vivian's eyes were blazing now, and I'm done pretending otherwise. She turned back to the board. I'm resigning. The words landed like a bomb. Noah's stomach dropped. Vivian, effective immediately, she continued. You can appoint an interim CEO while you search for my replacement. I'll assist with the transition for 30 days. After that, I'm done. Ms. Cross, let's not be hasty, Marcus started. This isn't hasty. This is 5 years overdue. Vivian looked at each board member in turn. I have spent half a decade proving myself to people who were never going to accept me, fighting battles that were rigged from the start, and I'm tired of it. What will you do? Patricia asked quietly. I have no idea, Vivian said. But whatever it is, it won't be this. She gathered her papers, nodded once to the room, and walked out. The board erupted into chaos. Noah didn't hear any of it. He was already moving, pushing through the door, chasing after Vivian down the hallway. Vivian, wait! She didn't stop, didn't slow down, just kept walking toward the elevator with that same rigid spine, that same forced composure. Vivian, please! She jabbed the elevator button. The doors opened immediately. She stepped inside and finally turned to face him. Don't, she said. Her voice was shaking. Don't tell me I'm making a mistake. Don't tell me to fight. Don't tell me I'm stronger than this. I was going to say you're free, Noah said. She blinked. What? You're free. For the first time in 5 years, you're free. Something in her expression cracked. The elevator doors started to close. Noah caught them. I know I'm the last person who has any right to ask anything from you, he said. But can we talk? Really talk. Not about the board or Damien or any of this. Just about what comes next. There is no next for us, Noah. I ended that weeks ago. I know, and maybe that was the right call, but you just walked away from your entire life. You shouldn't have to figure out what's next alone. I've been alone for 5 years. I'm used to it. That doesn't mean you should stay that way. Vivian looked at him with those exhausted, fierce eyes. Why are you doing this? I hurt you. I hurt Emma. I chose my career over you, and then I lost the career anyway. There's nothing left worth saving. Emma asked me the other night why everyone leaves, Noah said, and I didn't have a good answer. But standing here right now, I think maybe the answer is that people leave because they're scared, or hurt, or they don't know how to stay. He let go of the elevator door. But I'm still here, Vivian, despite everything. And if you want to walk away, really walk away, I'll respect that. But if there's any part of you that wants to try again, I need you to know I'm not going anywhere." The elevator doors started closing again. This time, Noah didn't stop them. Vivian stared at him through the narrowing gap. At the last possible second, she hit the button. The doors jerked open. "Same diner?" she asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Same diner." "When?" "Whenever you're ready." She nodded once. Then the doors closed and she was gone. Noah stood in the empty hallway, his heart pounding, having no idea if she'd actually show up or if that was just her way of being kind while saying goodbye. But for the first time in 3 weeks, he felt something other than numbness. He felt hope. Noah left work early. He picked Emma up from school and took her to the park, not the one where they'd met Vivian, somewhere new. They fed ducks stale bread that Emma insisted they needed, despite multiple signs saying not to feed the wildlife. "Daddy?" Emma said, throwing breadcrumbs at a particularly aggressive mallard. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, Em. Why?" "You seem different today, like you can breathe again." Noah looked at his daughter, this perceptive little person who saw through everything. "Maybe I can." "Is it because of Vivian?" He hesitated. "Partly." "Did you talk to her?" "A little bit." "Is she coming back?" "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe." Emma threw more bread, considering this. "If she does come back, I'm going to be mad at her." "That's fair, but I also miss her." "Me too." "It's confusing." "Yeah," Noah agreed. "It really is." They stayed at the park until sunset, then went home and made grilled cheese that was slightly burned because Noah got distracted checking his phone. No message from Vivian. He told himself that was fine. She'd just quit her job. She probably needed time to process. But the waiting was torture. Emma went to bed at 8. Noah tried to watch TV, couldn't focus, tried to read, gave up after 2 pages. He was seriously considering just going to sleep when his phone buzzed. "Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I'll meet you there." Noah stared at the message. Tomorrow. Not weeks from now. Not months. Tomorrow. He typed back, "I'll be there." Then, after a moment, "Are you okay?" Her response took longer. "No, but I'm trying to figure out how to be. That's all any of us can do." "See you tomorrow, Noah." "See you tomorrow." Noah slept better that night than he had in weeks. The next evening, he arranged for Mrs. Chen to watch Emma and walk the 4 blocks to Mel's Diner at 6:45. The same exhausted waitress was working the same shift. She didn't recognize him or didn't care. Noah ordered 2 coffees and sat in the same booth where this had all started. Vivian arrived at 7:03. She looked different out of her corporate armor. Jeans and a plain sweater, hair down around her shoulders, face bare of makeup. She looked younger, more vulnerable. Real. She slid into the booth across from him. "Hi," she said. "Hi." The waitress brought coffee without being asked. Vivian took a sip and made the same disgusted face. "Still terrible," she said. "Consistently terrible," Noah agreed. They sat in silence for a moment. The diner hummed around them. Someone dropped a plate in the kitchen. The jukebox played a song from the 80s that neither of them knew. "I'm sorry," Vivian said finally, "for ending things the way I did, for disappearing, for hurting Emma." "I know. That doesn't make it okay." "No, but it makes it human." Vivian wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "I was so scared, Noah. The board, Damien, the investigation. It felt like everything was falling apart, and the only way to stop it was to cut out anything that made me weak." "And we made you weak? You made me care about something other than the company. That felt dangerous." "Was it?" "Yes," Vivian said, "but it was also the best thing that happened to me in 5 years." She looked up at him. "I thought I could go back to how things were before I met you. Just focus on work, keep my head down, survive. But I couldn't, because you and Emma showed me what I was missing, what I'd been missing for years. And then you lost it anyway. I chose to lose it. That's different." She took another sip of terrible coffee. "Standing in that boardroom today, listening to Damien try to destroy me with half-truths and manipulated data, I realized something. I was never going to win. Not because I wasn't good enough, but because the game was rigged. And as long as I kept playing by their rules, I was going to keep losing pieces of myself. So you quit. So I quit, Vivian confirmed. I walked away from a billion-dollar company and a CEO position and a legacy I spent 5 years building, and you know what? I feel lighter than I have in years. Noah studied her face. She looked exhausted, but there was something else underneath, something that might have been relief. What happens now? He asked. I have no idea. I've never not had a plan before. She smiled weakly. It's terrifying. But also kind of freeing? Yeah, exactly. She set down her coffee. Noah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Okay. Do you want this? Really want it. Because I'm not the billionaire CEO anymore. I'm just Vivian, unemployed, kind of a mess, figuring out who I am without the company to define me. And I don't know if that's enough. Noah reached across the table and took her hand. Her fingers were cold from the coffee cup. That first night, he said, I saw you crying alone in an empty office. You weren't a billionaire then. You were just someone who was hurting. And I walked into that room because I wanted to help. Not because of your money or your position, because you looked human. And now? Now you look even more human, and I still want to help. If you'll let me? Vivian's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve you. That's not how this works. I hurt you. I hurt Emma. Yeah, you did, and we're both still processing that. But Emma also misses you, and I miss you. And maybe we can figure out how to move forward from here instead of staying stuck in what already happened. What if I mess it up again? Then we'll deal with it, together. Noah squeezed her hand. Vivian, I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm just asking you to try. She looked down at their joined hands, tears sliding down her cheeks. I want to meet Emma again. Properly this time. Not as the CEO who broke promises, as someone who's genuinely sorry and wants to do better. She wants that too, but she's also going to be guarded. She's been hurt too many times. I know, and I'll earn her trust back, however long it takes. Okay then. Okay? Okay, Noah confirmed. We'll take it slow. Figure it out as we go. No grand plans, no expectations, just two people trying not to drown. Vivian laughed through her tears. That's the least romantic thing I've ever heard. I'm not good at romantic. You're perfect at it. You just don't know it. They sat in that terrible diner for 2 more hours, drinking bad coffee and talking about everything and nothing. Vivian told him about the moment she decided to resign, about the freedom and terror of walking away from everything she'd built. Noah told her about Emma's nightmare, about the past 3 weeks of numbness, about the hope he'd felt when she'd stopped the elevator. When they finally left, it was past 9. The city was dark and cold, streetlights casting orange pools on the sidewalk. Vivian walked Noah back toward his apartment building, neither of them quite ready to say goodbye. Can I see Emma tomorrow? Vivian asked as they reached his street. Sunday afternoon, park playdate? Perfect. They stood on the sidewalk, the space between them charged with possibility and fear, and something that might have been the beginning of healing. Thank you, Vivian said softly, for not giving up on me. Thank you for coming back. She stepped closer and hugged him. Not tentative this time, just a real, solid embrace that said they were both going to try. Noah wrapped his arms around her and held on. When they pulled apart, Vivian was smiling. Actually smiling. See you tomorrow, Noah Grayson. See you tomorrow, Vivian Cross. She walked away into the night, and Noah watched until she turned the corner. Then he went upstairs to his apartment, where Emma was already asleep, and Mrs. Chen was watching a reality show about people who married strangers. How'd it go? Mrs. Chen asked. Good, Noah said. Really good. That girl coming back around? Maybe. We'll see. Mrs. Chen nodded sagely. About time. You've been moping around here like a kicked puppy. Noah laughed. Thanks, Mrs. Chen. You know I'm right. She left, and Noah checked on Emma one more time. She was sprawled across her bed, blankets kicked off, stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. He pulled the blanket back over her and whispered, Vivian's coming to see you tomorrow. I hope that's okay. Emma didn't wake up, but she smiled in her sleep like maybe some part of her had heard and was already preparing to be cautiously, carefully hopeful, just like her father. Sunday afternoon came with the kind of crisp winter air that made everything feel sharper, more defined. Noah told Emma over breakfast that Vivian wanted to see her again, watching his daughter's face carefully for her reaction. Emma had looked down at her cereal, quiet for a long moment. Then she'd said, "Is she going to leave again?" "I don't know, Em, but she wants to try not to." Trying and doing are different things. Noah had no argument for that. "You're right, they are, but sometimes trying is all we can ask for." Emma had nodded slowly, like she was processing something far heavier than a 6-year-old should have to carry. "Okay, but I'm not going to be super nice to her right away. She has to earn it." "That's fair." "And if she makes you sad again, I'm going to tell her she's being mean." Noah had smiled despite himself. "Deal." Now they stood at the park entrance, Emma's hand tight in his. Vivian was already there, sitting on the same bench from weeks ago. She stood when she saw them, and Noah could see the nervousness in every line of her body. Emma let go of Noah's hand and walked forward on her own. She stopped a few feet from Vivian, arms crossed, chin up. "Hi, Emma," Vivian said softly. "You missed my play," Emma said. No accusation in her voice, just a fact. "I did, and I'm sorry." "You promised." "I know. Daddy says grown-ups break promises sometimes, but I don't think that's fair." "You're right," Vivian said. "It's not fair. I should have been there, and I wasn't, and I can't take that back." Emma studied her with those serious eyes. "Are you going to keep breaking promises?" "I'm going to try really hard not to, but I can't promise I'll be perfect, because nobody is. I can promise that if I mess up, I'll tell you why. And I'll always apologize, and I'll always try to do better." "That's what Daddy says too." "Your daddy is a smart man." Emma considered this, then uncrossed her arms slightly. "Do you still want to be friends?" "More than anything. Even though you're not my daddy's boss anymore?" Vivian glanced at Noah, something vulnerable in her expression. "Especially because I'm not his boss anymore. Now we're just people, and I like you both as people." Emma seemed to accept this. "Okay, but I'm still a little bit mad." "That's okay. You're allowed to be mad. And I might stay mad for a while." "I understand. But maybe we can still play on the swings." Vivian's smile was tentative but genuine. "I'd really like that." They walked to the playground together, Emma between them, but not holding either of their hands. She maintained her careful distance for the first half hour, polite but guarded. She let Vivian push her on the swings, but didn't chatter like she had the first time. She showed Vivian her new trick on the monkey bars, but didn't ask for praise. Noah watched from a bench, giving them space to figure this out on their own. It was Vivian who finally broke through. Emma had climbed to the top of the jungle gym and was surveying her kingdom when Vivian called up to her. "Emma, can I tell you something?" "What?" "I was really scared when I came here today because I thought you might hate me for breaking my promise." Emma peered down at her. "I don't hate you." "I'm glad, but I would understand if you did." "Hating people takes too much energy," Emma said seriously. "That's what my teacher says. She says it's better to be mad for a little bit and then move on." "Your teacher sounds wise." "She is. She has like 1,000,000 books in our classroom." Emma climbed down a few rungs. "Why were you scared, though? You're a grown-up. Grown-ups aren't supposed to be scared." "Grown-ups are scared all the time," Vivian said. "We just get better at hiding it." "That seems dumb." "It really is." Emma climbed down the rest of the way and stood in front of Vivian. "I'm scared sometimes, too. Like when I think about my mom and why she didn't want to stay, or when Daddy has to work late and I worry he won't come back." Vivian knelt down so they were eye level. "Those are really big fears." "Yeah, but Daddy always comes back, so I'm trying to remember that people I care about don't always leave." "Some people do, though," Vivian said gently, "and that's not your fault. Sometimes adults make bad choices that hurt kids, and it's not because the kids did anything wrong." Emma looked at her for a long moment. "Are you talking about my mom or about you?" "Both, maybe." "Are you going to make better choices now?" "I'm going to try really hard to." Emma nodded. "Okay, I can work with trying." Then she held out her hand. "Come on, I want to show you the good hiding spot by the big tree." Vivian took her hand, and something in her face cracked open. Not breaking, just softening. She looked over at Noah, and he saw tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. They spent another hour at the park. Emma gradually warmed up, her natural exuberance breaking through the walls she'd built. By the time they left, she was holding Vivian's hand and explaining in great detail why her stuffed rabbit was named Sir Flopsalot, even though he was definitely a girl rabbit. "Can Vivian come for dinner?" Emma asked as they walked back to the apartment. Noah and Vivian exchanged glances. "I don't want to impose," Vivian started. "It's just spaghetti from a jar," Noah said. "Nothing fancy." "I like spaghetti from a jar." "Then, yeah. Come to dinner." Vivian's smile was worth everything. Dinner was chaos in the best way. Emma insisted on helping cook, which meant getting sauce on her shirt and dropping exactly 3 noodles on the floor. Vivian set the table wrong, putting the forks on the right side, and Emma corrected her with the patient authority of someone who'd been setting tables her whole life. They ate in Noah's cramped kitchen with mismatched plates and cups from a fast food promotion 2 years ago. Emma talked non-stop about school, and her friend Mia, and the boy who pulled her hair until she told the teacher, and now he had to sit by himself at lunch. "Good," Vivian said. "People who don't respect boundaries deserve consequences." "That's what Daddy said too." "Your daddy is very smart. I know, I tell him all the time, but he forgets." Noah laughed. "I never forget. I just pretend to, so you'll keep telling me." Emma threw a piece of garlic bread at him. After dinner, Emma dragged Vivian to her room to show her the chapter book she'd finished and the new one she was starting. Noah cleaned up the kitchen, listening to Emma's voice floating down the hallway, animated and happy in a way she hadn't been in weeks. When Vivian finally emerged, Emma was yawning. "Bedtime, Em," Noah said. "Do I have to?" "Yes. School tomorrow." "Can Vivian read me a story?" Noah looked at Vivian. She looked terrified and pleased at the same time. "If Vivian wants to," Noah said. "I'd love to," Vivian said. Emma grabbed her hand and pulled her back toward the bedroom. Noah followed, leaning in the doorway while Emma climbed into bed and handed Vivian the book she'd been reading. "Start from chapter 3, Emma instructed. "That's where the girl finds the magic door." Vivian opened the book and began to read. Her voice was soft, measured, nothing like the crisp executive tone Noah had heard in boardrooms. She did different voices for different characters, making Emma giggle. When she reached the end of the chapter, Emma was already half asleep. "One more," Emma mumbled. "Tomorrow," Vivian said gently. "If your dad says it's okay." Emma's eyes opened slightly. "You'll come back tomorrow?" "If you want me to." "I want you to." "Then I will." Emma smiled and closed her eyes. Vivian set the book down, pulled the blanket up over Emma's shoulders, and stood there for a moment just watching her breathe. Noah stepped back as Vivian came out of the room. They walked to the living room in silence. Vivian sat on the couch and put her face in her hands. "Hey," Noah said, sitting beside her. "You okay?" "She's amazing," Vivian said, her voice muffled. "You're raising this incredible human being, and I almost walked away from both of you because I was too scared to try." "But you came back." "What if I hadn't, though? What if I'd convinced myself that quitting was easier and I'd missed all of this?" She looked up, tears on her cheeks. "Noah, I've made a lot of money in my life. I've closed billion-dollar deals. I've been on magazine covers. And none of it felt like reading a bedtime story to your daughter." Noah reached out and wiped a tear from her cheek. "Welcome to real life. It's messy and terrifying, and you'll probably mess up a lot. But it's also the only thing that actually matters. I don't know how to do this. Be a regular person. Figure out what comes next. Nobody does. We're all just making it up as we go." Vivian leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "I have a meeting with the Vanguard transition team on Tuesday. Signing final paperwork, transferring authority, all of it. And then I'm officially unemployed for the first time since college." "How does that feel?" "Terrifying, liberating, like jumping off a cliff without knowing if there's water below." "What do you want to do? After it's all done?" She was quiet for a long time. "I want to build something new, something that matters. Not for board approval or stock prices or legacy, just because it's the right thing to do. Like what? I've been thinking about consulting, helping smaller companies with financial strategy, investment planning, using everything I know, but without the corporate politics. She lifted her head to look at him. And I was thinking maybe I wouldn't do it alone. Noah's heart skipped. What do you mean? You're brilliant at financial analysis. You see things other people miss, and you're not afraid to tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. She sat up fully, turning to face him. What if we partnered? Started a consulting firm together? Your analytical skills, my industry connections, and strategic experience. We could help companies make smarter decisions without the bureaucracy. Vivian, I can't afford to quit my job. I have Emma to support, rent to pay. I know, and I'm not asking you to quit tomorrow, but I have enough savings to fund the startup costs. We could build it slowly, take on clients while you're still at Vanguard, and when it's stable enough, you transition full-time. She grabbed his hands. Noah, we could build something real, something ours. No boards to answer to, no Damian Blackwell trying to destroy us. Just us doing good work and building a life worth living. Noah stared at her. The idea was insane. It was risky. It went against every safe, careful decision he'd made for the past 3 years. It was also exactly what he wanted. I need to think about it, he said. Of course. Take all the time you need. She stood up. I should go. It's late, and you have work tomorrow. Noah walked her to the door. She paused in the doorway, looking back at him. Thank you for today, she said. For giving me another chance. For letting me into Emma's life. For not giving up on me even when I gave up on myself. You didn't give up, Noah said. You just took a detour. A really messy detour. The best things usually are. She kissed his cheek, soft and brief. See you tomorrow? Same time? Same time. After she left, Noah stood in his quiet apartment thinking about consulting firms and partnerships and the terrifying possibility of building something that actually mattered. He thought about Emma, about stability, about all the safe choices that had kept them afloat but never let them thrive. He thought about Vivian reading bedtime stories and pushing Emma on swings and looking more alive than she ever had in a boardroom. And he thought about how sometimes the bravest thing you could do was risk everything you'd built for the chance at something better. The next 3 weeks moved in a rhythm that felt almost normal. Vivian came over most evenings after Noah picked Emma up from school. She helped with homework, read bedtime stories, learned to make grilled cheese that was only slightly burned. Emma's walls came down gradually, until one night she crawled into Vivian's lap without being invited and fell asleep there. Vivian had looked at Noah with such wonder and terror that he'd nearly laughed. What do I do? She mouthed. Just hold her, he mouthed back. She did, carefully, like Emma was made of glass. And when Noah eventually carried Emma to bed, Vivian sat on the couch looking stunned. She trusts me, she'd whispered. Yeah, she does. I don't want to mess this up. You won't. How do you know? Because you care too much to let yourself. Meanwhile, Vivian's transition out of Vanguard was making headlines. Business publications ran articles speculating about her next move. Reporters called asking for statements. The board appointed an interim CEO, someone safe and boring who immediately started walking back half of Vivian's innovations. I should care more, Vivian said one evening while she and Noah were washing dishes after dinner. Emma was in the living room drawing. I built that company into what it is, and they're dismantling it. But all I feel is relieved. Because it was never really yours, Noah said. It was your father's legacy. You were just maintaining it. What if I don't know who I am without it? Then we figure it out together. She'd smiled at that. Have you thought more about the consulting firm? Yeah, I have. And? Noah dried his hands and turned to face her. I'm in, but I want to do it right. Build a solid client base, create sustainable revenue streams. Make sure we're stable before I leave Vanguard. I can't risk Emma's security on a maybe. That's smart. And I want equal partnership, not you funding everything and me just helping out. Real partners. Agreed. And we tell Emma what we're doing. Keep her in the loop, because she deserves to know when big things are changing. Vivian reached out and took his hand. Deal. They shook on it right there in Noah's cramped kitchen with cheap dish soap on their hands and Emma's drawings stuck to the fridge with alphabet magnets. It felt more real than any contract Noah had ever signed. They started small. Vivian reached out to former contacts, companies she'd worked with who trusted her judgment. Noah crunched numbers at night after Emma was asleep, building financial models and risk assessments. Their first client was a mid-sized tech company struggling with cash flow management. Noah identified the inefficiencies, Vivian presented the solutions, and within 6 weeks the company's margins had improved by 18%. Word spread. More clients came, small companies, startups, even a few established firms who preferred Vivian's direct approach to the corporate consultancies that charged 5 times as much and delivered half the value. By March, 3 months after Vivian's resignation, they had 12 active clients and a waiting list. "We should make this official," Vivian said one night. They were in Noah's living room, laptops open, Emma asleep down the hall. "Register as an LLC, get proper insurance, maybe even rent office space. That's a big step." "We're ready." Noah looked at the numbers on his screen, the projected revenue, the client retention rates, the stability they were building. "Yeah," he said, "we are." They called the firm Grace & Cross Consulting. Equal billing, equal ownership, equal partnership. The name raised eyebrows. Everyone knew who Vivian Cross was, and the business press immediately started speculating about her relationship with her mystery partner. They ignored the speculation and kept working. In April, Noah gave his notice at Vanguard. His supervisor was disappointed but understanding. His coworkers threw him a small goodbye party that was mostly awkward small talk and sheet cake, but a few people pulled him aside to say they admired what he was doing. "Taking a risk like that with a kid to support?" one of them said. "That's brave." Noah didn't feel brave. He felt terrified. But he also felt alive in a way he hadn't in years. His last day at Vanguard was a Friday. He cleaned out his desk, turned in his security badge, and walked out of the building he'd spent 6 years of his life in. Vivian was waiting outside. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Like jumping off a cliff," Noah said. "Is there water below?" "I guess we'll find out." She took his hand and they walked away from Vanguard Holdings together, toward whatever came next. What came next was harder than either of them expected. Running a consulting firm meant constant client management, unpredictable revenue, long hours that sometimes stretched past midnight. Noah and Vivian learned to divide responsibilities. He handled the analysis and financial modeling. She managed client relationships and business development. They rented a small office in a building that had seen better days but had good light and was close enough to Emma's school that Noah could pick her up on time. Emma adjusted to the changes with the resilience of children everywhere. She liked visiting the office after school, setting up her homework at the conference table while Noah and Vivian worked. She liked that Daddy seemed happier, less tired. She liked that Vivian was around more, that she'd become a permanent fixture in their lives rather than someone who appeared and disappeared. One evening in June, 6 months after Vivian's resignation, Emma looked up from her math homework and said, "Are you and Vivian dating?" Noah nearly choked on his coffee. Vivian froze at her laptop. "What makes you ask that?" Noah said carefully. "You hold hands sometimes, and you smile at each other a lot. And Mia says when grown-ups do that, it means they're dating." Noah and Vivian looked at each other. They hadn't talked about this, hadn't labeled what they were beyond partners and friends and people who cared about each other. But Emma was right. Somewhere along the way, holding hands had become natural. Sitting close had become automatic. The way they looked at each other had shifted from friendship into something deeper. "Would it bother you if we were?" Vivian asked gently. Emma considered this seriously. "I don't think so. You make Daddy happy, and you don't leave anymore, so I think it's okay." "What if it doesn't work out?" Noah asked. "What if Vivian and I try being together and it gets complicated?" "Then you'll figure it out," Emma said with the certainty of someone who'd watched her father solve problems her whole life. "That's what you always do." After Emma went to bed, Noah and Vivian sat on the couch in the quiet apartment. "So," Vivian said, "are we dating?" "I have no idea," Noah admitted. "What are we?" "Terrified?" "Definitely that. But also maybe something more?" Noah looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who'd walked away from everything to find herself, who'd fought her way back when it would have been easier to stay gone, who read bedtime stories and burned grilled cheese and stayed up late building financial models because she believed in what they were creating together. "Yeah," he said. "Something more." "Is that okay?" "It's terrifying." But I think Emma's right. We'll figure it out." Vivian leaned over and kissed him. Not on the cheek this time. A real kiss that said they were both all in, both terrified, both willing to try anyway. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. "So we're doing this. Apparently. No turning back now. Was there ever?" She laughed and kissed him again. The news about Damian Blackwell broke in July. Federal investigators had been quietly building a case for months: wire fraud, securities violations, embezzlement. Turned out, Damian had been siphoning company funds into offshore accounts for years, hiding it behind legitimate expenses and falsified reports. The investigation had started after an anonymous tip following Vivian's resignation, and the evidence was overwhelming. Damian was arrested at his office in the middle of a board meeting. The media had a field day. Vanguard's stock price dropped 12% in a single day. Vivian got the news from Marcus Chen, who called to apologize. "We should have seen it," Marcus said. "We should have investigated him instead of you." "You were doing what you thought was right," Vivian said, though her voice was tight. "We were protecting the wrong person, and I'm sorry." After she hung up, Vivian sat very still. "You okay?" Noah asked. "He almost destroyed me," she said quietly. "He weaponized my friendship with you, turned the board against me, made me question everything about myself, and the whole time he was the actual criminal." "You won," Noah pointed out. "You got out before it all collapsed." "Did I win, or did I just survive? Does it matter?" Vivian thought about that. "No," she said finally. "I guess it doesn't. Because I'm here now, building something real, with someone who actually values honesty over power." She looked at him. "That feels like winning. Even without the billion-dollar empire?" "Especially without it." In August, the same board that had investigated Vivian called asking her to return. Vanguard was in crisis. The stock price was still falling. Shareholders were demanding change. They needed someone they could trust. Vivian took the meeting out of courtesy. Noah went with her for moral support. The board sat around the same conference table where they'd nearly voted her out. Richard looked older, diminished. Patricia seemed uncomfortable. Marcus was the only one who met Vivian's eyes directly. "Ms. Cross," Richard began, "we want to formally apologize for how we handled the investigation earlier this year. We were misled by Mr. Blackwell and we failed to protect you. We hope you can forgive us." "I appreciate the apology," Vivian said, "but I didn't come here for forgiveness." "Then why did you come?" "Because you asked, and I wanted to hear what you had to say." Marcus leaned forward. "We want you back as CEO. We'll give you complete autonomy, a new contract with protections against board interference, a substantial raise. Whatever it takes." Vivian looked at them. These people who'd questioned her every decision, investigated her personal life, nearly destroyed her for the crime of being human. "No," she said. "Ms. Cross, please consider—" "I don't need to consider. I'm not interested." She stood. "I spent 5 years sacrificing everything for this company. My relationships, my mental health, my identity. And you still didn't trust me. So I left. And you know what I found?" They waited. "I found that there's more to life than board approval. I found that building something with people you trust is worth more than any salary you could offer. I found that being happy matters more than being powerful." She looked at each of them. "So thank you for the offer, but I'm exactly where I want to be." She walked out with Noah beside her. In the elevator, he said, "That was amazing." "Was it?" "You just turned down everything you spent years working for." "No," Vivian corrected. "I turned down everything I thought I wanted. What I actually want is already mine." They rode down in silence. When they reached the lobby, Vivian stopped and looked back at the building one last time. "Any regrets?" Noah asked. "Just one." "What's that?" "That it took me so long to realize none of this mattered." She turned to him. "But I'm glad I figured it out eventually." "Me too." They walked out of Vanguard Holdings together, hand in hand, and didn't look back. A year later, Grayson Cross Consulting had 35 active clients, 4 employees, and revenue that exceeded Noah's old Vanguard salary by 40%. They'd moved into a bigger office with actual furniture instead of folding tables. Emma had her own desk in the corner where she did homework and drew pictures that they hung on the walls. Vivian and Noah had settled into a life that was messy and complicated and better than either of them had imagined. They argued about client strategies and who forgot to buy milk and whether Emma should be allowed to get a dog. They made up quickly because life was too short to stay mad. They built something together that was theirs, not inherited, not assigned, just genuinely theirs. Emma thrived. She'd started calling Vivian by her first name instead of Daddy's friend, which Vivian said was the best promotion she'd ever received. She'd stopped asking why people left and started trusting that the people who mattered would stay. One Saturday morning in November, exactly 1 year after Vivian's resignation, the 3 of them were making pancakes in Noah's kitchen. Vivian was attempting to flip one and failing spectacularly. Emma was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. Noah was watching them both with something that felt like contentment. "Daddy?" Emma said between giggles. "Are we a family now?" Noah looked at Vivian. She looked back at him, flour on her face, spatula in hand, smiling wider than he'd ever seen. "Yeah, Em," Noah said. "I think we are." "Good," Emma said, "because I told Mia that Vivian was basically my bonus mom, and she said that was cool." "Bonus mom?" Vivian repeated, her voice catching. "Yeah. You're not my real mom because she left, but you're the mom who stayed, so that makes you better." Vivian set down the spatula and knelt in front of Emma. "That's the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me." "It's true, though." Emma hugged her. "You're my bonus mom, and you're really good at reading stories and really bad at pancakes." "I can live with that," Vivian said, hugging her back. Later that night, after Emma was asleep, Noah and Vivian sat on the couch in comfortable silence. "Bonus mom," Vivian said softly. "I went from billionaire CEO to bonus mom." "Regretting your choices?" "Not even a little bit." She leaned against him. "You know what the weirdest part is? I thought losing my position at Vanguard was the worst thing that could happen to me. I thought I'd lost everything that mattered. And now? Now I realize that was the moment I actually found myself. Everything before that was just performing, playing a role I thought I was supposed to play." She looked up at him. "You and Emma, this business we built, this messy, complicated, imperfect life, this is real. Everything else was just noise." Noah kissed the top of her head. "You're getting philosophical." "I'm getting honest. There's a difference." "Fair point." They sat there in the quiet apartment, 2 people who'd risked everything for the chance at something real, who'd failed and tried again and built something better from the wreckage. "Noah?" Vivian said after a while. "Yeah?" "Thank you for walking into that conference room, for not looking away when you saw me crying, for giving me a chance when I didn't deserve one." "You deserved it," Noah said. "You just didn't know it yet. I know it now." "Good." Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaos. Inside, everything was still and right and exactly where it needed to be. Because here's what Noah had learned in the past year. Empires could fall, positions could disappear, power could evaporate like morning fog. But the connections you built with people, the honest, messy, imperfect connections, those lasted. Those mattered. Those were the only things worth fighting for. Vivian had learned it too. That being vulnerable wasn't weakness, that asking for help wasn't failure, that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was admit you didn't have all the answers and trust someone else to help you find them. And Emma, wise beyond her years, had learned that family wasn't about biology or perfection. It was about who showed up, who stayed, who loved you even when things got hard. They were a family built from broken pieces, held together by honesty and effort, and the stubborn refusal to give up on each other. It wasn't the family any of them had planned for, but it was the family they'd chosen. And that made all the difference. 3 months later, on a Saturday afternoon in February, Vivian moved into Noah's apartment. It was too small for all of them, so they started looking for a bigger place. Something with a yard where Emma could play, and maybe, eventually, get that dog she kept asking about. 6 months after that, Grayson Cross Consulting hired their 10th employee and had to move into an even bigger office space. They were profitable, stable, and growing in ways that felt sustainable rather than explosive. And one evening in early fall, 2 years after that first night in the conference room, Noah came home to find Vivian and Emma in the kitchen making dinner together. Vivian was chopping vegetables while Emma stirred something on the stove, both of them singing off-key to a song on the radio. They looked up when he walked in, faces bright with happiness, and Noah thought, This is what winning actually looks like. Not money or titles or power, just two people you love making dinner in a kitchen that smells like garlic, singing badly and not caring. He joined them, wrapping his arms around both of them at once, and they laughed and complained that he was in the way, but nobody moved. Because they'd all learned the same lesson, each in their own way. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you wanted to find what you actually need. Vivian had lost her empire and found a family. Noah had risked his stability and found a partnership. Emma had faced abandonment and found belonging. And together, they'd built something that no board could vote away, no investigation could destroy, no amount of money could buy. They'd built a home, not perfect, never perfect, but real and honest in theirs. And in the end, that was more than enough. It was everything.